Hello and welcome to a new episode of Convert on Shopify. And my name is Pancho Mendiola, and today I had the pleasure to have an awesome conversation with Sean from Swanky. So Swanky is a Shopify Plus agency. They have tons of experience with CRO using Shopify Plus, which are two concepts that for me, and you'll tell that was the first question I asked him. For me, are two concepts that normally don't go together, Shopify and CRO. But this is the reason of this podcast. So we had an awesome conversation about how you can apply CRO tactics and strategies to Shopify Plus. We also talked about branding, which is a big one for conversion. So you want to make sure that all the touch points, if you're doing D2C, you want to make sure all the touch points get covered. And we spoke a lot about that as well. And at the end, we spoke also about segments, the importance of not giving the same experience to everyone, especially if you have a high volume store. And believe me, this guy knows his stuff. This is one of the largest agencies specializing in Shopify Plus, doing conversion optimization for huge brands, a lot of subscription brands, food brands. So they have tons of experience on how to cater to specific segments. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you too. So let's jump right in. Hey, Sean, thank you. Thank you very much. Really, we appreciate your time. I know that you are a busy guy. You have a lot in your plate. And specifically today, you got locked out of your office.
Thanks, Pancho. Happy New Year to you too, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great to be on. It's great to catch up with you. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So, listen, I have a couple of questions for you, and I know that we want to also address some topics that we already spoke about. But let's start with my own curiosities first, okay? I I love your website. I mean, your agency's website is killer. I love that. It's super simple, super clear. I think it's one of the most clear websites that I've seen in the development or Shopify world. We tend with agencies we tend to use a lot of fancy words, and you kept it super simple. But one of the things that caught my attention is that you kind of mix or do a claim where you mix Shopify and CRO, which are two terms that are not, you can't find them often, right? Why? Because Shopify, I tend to think of Shopify of this, out of the box solution where you can just start to do e-commerce, and CRO seems a lot more advanced. I know with Shopify Plus we can do a lot more customizations, but I really would like to know. Okay, if I don't use, if I use the themes, or I purchase a theme without using code, what are things that I can do to start in my CRO journey? So what are the things that I can focus on so I can start doing some conversion and optimization strategies or tactics?
Yeah, fair question. I mean, it's interesting you talk about Shopify as a startup platform. They just announced the enterprise components today. So certainly
Yeah.
moving into the big bad boys at the moment. But I suppose if we're talking about Shopify and beyond Shopify, if we're talking about CRO as a component for building insight, I think that's the starting point. Whether we're thinking about making sure that our analytics are accurate, whether we're thinking about how you, as a merchant, are capturing data to better understand your audience, I think that's the key component. It doesn't matter how big your business is, you need to understand your customer. So I think whether it's having an on-site reviews platform or customer service chat or whatever else, any way that you can capture feedback, and then obviously having those review cycles to understand the changes in behavior, the feedback on your customer experience, your product, and every touch point that your customer has with your brand and your product. I think that's the starting point. If at the end of the day you're not capturing that information, you're never going to improve the experience for your customer, because it's all about your opinions. At the end of the day, the most important opinion in CRO is your customers. So the sooner you start capturing that, the better.
Of course. I'm gonna send this specific clip to my clients because we clients and also us, we tend to overthink it when it comes to launching a website and like you said, we base a lot of stuff in opinions. When what I'm hearing is that we should put it out there and then get feedback right away. And Shopify is ready for that, right? You
Yeah,
can do almost nothing and you'll get feedback, right?
yeah, exactly right. And I mean, there's that difference as well between prompted and passive feedback. We see so many people go all out, they're running a million surveys and they're interrupting the customer experience. You realize you can capture that information passively half the time, whether that's just, as I said, reviews and customer service tickets and going through those and digging into those. They're often more honest than a prompted survey. A prompted survey gets, forgive me for going with the niche term at the moment, but it gets all the Karens coming out of the woodwork, and they're not your entire customer base. So you want to have the feedback from every user coming to your site, not just people who are opinionated. We we have an expression that we use in the office quite a bit, Pancho, which is strong opinions loosely held. Ultimately, if you have data that makes your conclusions, your opinions, your idea more validated than mine, your opinion's my opinion now. And whether we're working with our customers or working within our teams and we learn something, we share it, we sanity check it, we validate it as best we can. And then if it is the most valid answer, that's everyone's answer now. We really want to avoid hippos. We're not about the highest income person's opinion. We're very much focused on, okay, what do people want as a whole, and how do we ultimately provide that? So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually had that sort of conversation with a guy from my team, and he did all this like copywriting for a website, and we're discussing like if I liked that better or not. And I'm like, I don't care. It's like let the data or just do a little research. Uh, if you tell me that what you're saying is backed up by some data, it doesn't have to be our data, but some data, I believe you. I don't care. I don't have to be right. I just want to make it better, right?
Yeah,
But
you've just got to have that starting point, as you said. I mean, one thing, and I'm sure you're coming across the Pancho yourself. We're seeing more and more ultimately wholesale brands moving direct to consumer retail because their feedback loop's shorter. They stop waiting on their on-selling retail merchants to pass them feedback 12 months after they roll out a product. They're launching on e-commerce stores on Shopify so that they can get feedback from their customers, improve their product, improve their packaging, improve every touch point, so that they're ultimately getting a better understanding of their customers. So yeah, it's interesting whether it's small merchants or big businesses. Feedback's the important bit. Everyone realizes data's the hard bit to capture until it becomes easier through platforms like Shopify.
all right. Okay, so you mentioned
Things.
several things that you can change once you have the data, and I think we can summarize a bunch of them in branding. You talked about packaging, about like the customer experience, but somehow there's a limited understanding, and this is in my experience. I don't know if you have it as well, but when we talk about branding, there's like already these guidelines of what branding is. For example, for a branding agency, there's certain stuff that they'll give to you as a client when we're talking about branding. I see that you also have branding services, and I would like to know, in your experience, if is branding the same in e-commerce, or are there more stuff in e-commerce? Like what should we consider as branding in e-commerce?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose it it poses a secondary question. Are we talking about good branding, bad branding, or indifferent?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we've come across plenty of creative agencies who are brilliant. They create beautiful brands. I suppose the question or the thought that I would put out there is, if we're talking about a brand that is a digital native brand that is trying to ultimately kick goals, e-com first and everything else second, I would say that that brand should evolve over time and that it should be an informed evolution. Um, I'm not sure whether the data is right or not, but I remember a conversation from way back when, what's the value of a logo, where people were comparing the cost of the, what was it, Nike, I think it was, how much the original Nike logo cost, and it's stood the test of time. It's iconic, versus the Pepsi Max logo change. I think it was early 2000s. Everyone goes, "Oh, it's just a logo. Like, it's recognisable. It's awesome. It's great. It's all the rest of it. What value has that got?" The Nike logo, I think, originally cost $120. Pretty cheap, but it has stood the test of time. It's recognisable as a logo type. Pepsi spent something like $20 million or $80 million, can't remember the figure, to roll out some updated branding. And they couldn't ascertain why, but over the next 6 to 12 months, whatever period it was, they lost a huge amount of cash. Again, don't quote me because I'm remembering something half remembered. But what is the value of branding? They couldn't attribute this drop in performance to anything apart from this introduction of new branding. And the hard part there is they haven't got all the touch points, all the data to inform or understand why that's having a negative impact. I would say in the e-com space, where you've got that feedback, where you've got those metrics directly in front of you, where you can A/B test or even series test, you can understand how your brand impacts your users. If I think about brands that we work with, Pancho, it's the same as CRO generally. If we've got no sample size when we launch a brand and then we start to get feedback on it, we can inform it and evolve it over time. I think that's, I suppose, there's so many bits to that, Pancho, because having the right branding is all well and good, but you've still got to find the right audience. And you may find the right audience for your product, but still need to evolve your branding over time. So it's a little bit of a curveball one, because branding is important. It differentiates you, makes you recognizable, and it does help you convert. It's the difference between brands and commodities. Having said that, if your brand doesn't exist, you've got to do your research, put an informed brand out into the world, and then evolve it over time. Sorry if I've got a little bit off piste there, but
no, that's perfect. And I think one of the key things you said is touch points. So when we ask for a branding agency, that they're specializing, in just creating logos and selecting type forms and whatever. They normally they're not aware of all the touch points that an e-commerce or a direct-to-consumer brand has with consumers. So it's going to be really hard for that agency to give you the branding assets for those touch points. And that's where you have to be aware, as a merchant, you have to be aware of those touch points. And I think a great example is that we go like all the way, we create these beautiful ads and we create videos and we create reels and we beautiful, a welcome series email, but then the customer makes their first purchase and they get sent the automatic email from Shopify with just like plain text and with the Shopify branding and well, here in Mexico, we normally use just the first name. It's like super casual. So all the way you're talking super casual, and then you send them an email with the first name and the last name and like super serious, hey, your order number is whatever. And that's a touch point that we don't consider. And like that, we have many of them. So I think to sum it up is to just be aware, okay? Because there's tons of touch points, even with a chat or like a support email, a ticket, whatever, that we have to get our branding there as well, right?
Oh, it's all an experience of the brand. I mean, one of my favorites, I'm usually wearing them, I'm not today, but one of my favorite brand examples and businesses that's evolved and grown on Shopify is Allbirds. I know it's the one that everyone references, but I love the way that they handle retail. in-store retail because it's all about the experience. Now, they carry very, very limited inventory in their stores so that it's all about the experience in the store, not about how much stock they can hold. They've literally designed their retail locations for the experience, not the inventory. If I think about a similar example of that, an Australian retail business that's grown internationally is Culture Kings. Similar sort of thing. You're going in there. They sell as often as not similar products to everyone else. They're very much streetwear and fashion. But you go into their Sydney location and they've got a DJ booth and a basketball court in their retail location.
Really?
It's all about the experience.
All right.
And I think that's exceptional. I think it's brilliant. Because you don't go there for a discount. You go there because you want to buy the Yeezys and you want the experience that goes with it. And you know that you're going to CK and it's awesome. So I think if we think about those branding touch points, it's the same as going and spending a bucket load of money on an online order for it to rock up in a bashed up cardboard box and it's an eco-friendly brand wrapped in paper and plastic and all the rest of it. What are you doing? So I completely agree. All those touch points are crucial because it's
Yeah.
a brand experience.
Yeah, of course. A guy was just asking me what I think or why don't I think that drop shipping works? And I said, well, maybe it works in certain cases, but if you can't control the experience, it's going to be really hard to control future purchases of that same client. And if you can't control that, then you don't have a business. And yeah, so that's the experience for me is super, super important, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I found that, I know, Pancho, you and I talked the other day about our respective businesses we've launched on Shopify in the past. I had an online camping store back in the day, and I made that decision very early to get stock, to hold inventory, because my point of difference was being personal. As much as anything, I'm testing the product. Here's the videos of me using the product. Here's all the feedback I can give you to inform your purchase decision. Here's the quality of the product demonstrated. And ultimately, you order it, you're going to have it within 2 days. I'm not drop shipping it out of China. I'm not giving up that ownership of a personal brand. So, yeah, I completely agree and understand that value is critical.
Yeah. And like you said, and that's actually what I told this guy. For me, because he then asked me, like, which product would you start with? I'm like, make it personal. Like you are the target, you are the niche. That's what you know the most. So start with something super, super personal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's your secret weapon. You got to lean into it. So
yeah, exactly. So okay, now that we have established this, like the touch points and the importance of branding and the website, there's what happens with stores that have tons of traffic, and you can't treat everybody the same. So first of all, what do you measure, or how do you measure like different segments and different behaviors or different types of customers?
it's a good question. I suppose I can give a couple of examples actually, which is handy.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of clients, or more than a couple of clients recently who have come along who are buying a lot of traffic, buying a lot of relatively cheap and anonymous traffic, and they've got a refinement method. They've got high value products. They've got really high margins, which allows them to buy a lot of traffic and just find the customers through an elimination process. Example of one of them is a fitness product. So they're selling this workout program and workout platform for something like $3,500 US for the product. And they're buying 20,000 sessions, 30,000 sessions a day, and they get 15 orders. They're stoked. It's a good day at the races. But the reality is they're giving one experience to 30,000 users a day. So it's a workout product, and they may have all this content that's around these huge, ginormous guys, and they're rolling around the gym, they're muscle-bound hulks, which is great. It's fine. That fits them. But the reality is this product, it's sort of similar to Peloton. You've got the product and you've got all the workout programs and all the tech behind it. Now, you can have weight loss programs, you can have muscle building and strengthening and toning and endurance and all the rest of it, and all their content's really one type. So ultimately, understanding the customers coming to the site and what's interested in the first place. So getting that prompted feedback, getting that passive feedback. What are you looking for? What are you after? Ultimately, building insight from the traffic they've got to go, you're not addressing this audience. And then the step beyond that is obviously starting to test. So some basic landing page tests, splitting out and having some of that personalized copy, personalized content, just to see whether or not that is a realistic addressable audience. And if it is, cool. We'll learn from it. We'll build more insight of that particular segment and continue to flesh it out and understand that segment better and better. And then it becomes a question of, do we go down the landing page basis and then personalization from there after their first inbound session? Do we actually isolate that, yes, there is a segment there, but they're just not right for our product. They're price sensitive, they're this, they're that, whatever it may be. But we need to evaluate that and understand who's coming to our site, who's not converting, and then beyond that, what can we do to make them convert, if we can make them convert. There's some customers that you can turn into a customer that's never going to be profitable, so don't chase that one forever. At the same time, we test and we learn and we evaluate, and then we make informed decisions as opposed to opinion-based ones. So that's probably one example. I mean, one of my favorite ones is actually Pancho. We worked with a hair loss product a couple of years ago. Now, these guys did, they were doing pretty good numbers. I think they ran a $3.2 million Black Friday
Wow.
a couple of years back. So pretty serious values, pretty serious volumes. Hair loss product, 52% of their audience composition was female, 98% of their orders were male. And again, not going into it too specifically, but their opinion was, they're browsing on behalf of their partners. They're not interested. Guys keep buying here. Their partners are prompting them. Guys are browsing on their partner's device, whatever it may be. Cool, fine, that's fine. What have you done, Mr. Client, to validate that? And so, they started to run some surveys, and the surveys were saying, I'm browsing for myself. 95% of users coming through the survey were browsing on behalf of themselves. And all of their content was male-oriented. All of it. All of their UGC, all of their copy, all of their content. So we went, guys, surely with the volumes you're doing and the traffic you've got, surely we've got enough female visitors to the site that just testing a little bit, just to validate, yes, we're interested. Yes, we are a realistic audience. The thing that we think we uncovered, again, it's all inference because you don't know anything. But we think that these ladies were probably a little bit more self-conscious about their hair. So they were less keen to respond and say, I'm explicitly a woman looking for this hair product for myself. But as we started to experiment and go down that rabbit hole, all of a sudden we went from addressing 48% of their traffic to the other 52% who were probably ultimately more concerned about the problem of hair loss and hair thinning, and ultimately more passionate about buying the product. They just needed the experience to go with it. So some of that experimentation as it rolled on was very, very fruitful for that client. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge example. Yeah, because like you said, maybe with males, we're a little less more like self-conscious with that, or we could just like shave and fix that problem.
A little bit more accepted.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I can totally see how missing that. I mean, how much money, how much budget went into pay-per-click campaigns and the artwork and just everything, and it's misdirected. And you mentioned like an active ways to get this information and passive ways. Passive ways, I suppose it's with with behavior, with clicks. But can you give us some tips on the active ones? Like, because we have run surveys a lot, and not all of them have been super successful. But do you have some tips to run like a cool survey?
Yeah, I suppose the surveys are always a hard one because sample size dictates whether or not you've got useful data. But I think the thing that people often overcomplicate is asking too many questions and ultimately having that survey fall out. Sometimes the simplest questions are, what are you here to do today? And, have that on entry and then have an exit survey running, over a similar period to go, right, you're exiting now. Were you successful today? If not, why not? What were you here to do? So my conversion rate's 2%. That doesn't mean my realistic opportunity is the other 98. How many people actually came intending to buy? So let's get a realistic opportunity. And then on the exit side of things, why didn't you transact? Why didn't you achieve what you were trying to do? Ultimately, you've told me there was a problem. What is the problem? Cool. Now I can go fix that. And obviously, then you're starting to move into prioritization and understanding the scale of impacted audience, so that you're prioritizing the low effort, high impact. That side of things. If you're going into segments, I suppose the thing there is to think about whether you can segment your users in your CRM. So it might be that you have built out segments in Klaviyo, as an example. Send them a survey from there. Ultimately, survey the people who aren't buying, survey the people who are. Understand what makes you stand out, understand what makes you fall out. All of these things that you've already got that data in pretty much any decent CRM. As long as you've set up your preferences pages, as long as you're tracking those base things. And again, if you've got a landing page based funnel model where you're running key campaigns to key landing pages, use those to build your segments out. Right, this person came in from this ad content, which is around this ad topic, particularly if you've got a solution-based product. There's your segment. That's the solution they're trying to solve, or the problem they're trying to solve. Build that segment from there, and then again, leverage that further and further to go, right, this segment are saying in their survey responses, this is their particular issue. So those are probably the two I would think. A lot of people probably fixate a little bit too much on survey platforms and not enough on the segmentation that ultimately helps them identify the particular needs of different segments. That's probably my one tip there is think about who you're surveying and how important they are.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, with the passive ones, you're gonna gather a lot more data, and maybe the service will help you with qualitative data. So if you want to have like specific answers or words or whatever, that's where surveys. And would you say realistically, I don't know, if you have a 2% conversion rate and you want to get to 4, so realistically, you have to aim for that 2% to answer why they didn't buy instead of that 98%, like you said?
Ultimately, it depends on the intent. Like that's the thing. I've had plenty of clients come and tell me, I think my conversion rate should be X. Cool.
Yeah.
How are you acquiring your traffic? If it's all top of funnel, mate, good luck.
Yeah.
But the reality there is understanding that inbound intent makes us understand the realistic opportunity. There are clients that we've seen double their conversion rates and then some at decent scale. Sometimes it's less around conversion rate, pure conversion rate, more around retention. So Swanky do a lot of work in the FMCG space, whether you're talking about meal kits like HelloFresh, or whether you're talking about subscription raises and healthcare and all sorts. Ultimately, conversion rate's important because that builds out our subscription sample, but I'm far more interested in extending my subscription life cycle by 4 subscription cycles than I am increasing my conversion rate by 10%. So much more value. So
yeah,
that makes for hard A/B testing. Obviously, your test lifetime extends quite a bit, but again, it's stuff like that gets really, really interesting and really granular, and that's where your segmentation is super important to understand those churn points, and to step forward from there to ultimately understand reasons for drop off. So yeah, a lot of that stuff's a bit more into to lifecycle marketing than it does A/B testing, but it's all optimization. So
yeah. Well, I think that that's what gets you going, right? That's what your current interest is. So if you're up to it, we can have you again, and we can double click on that. because that's also, I think, super interesting.
Yeah, for sure, mate. You can tell I enjoy talking about what we're talking about. So at the end of the day, mate,
Yeah.
if you want to drag me on here, I'm happy to sit here with a coffee and chat.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I could tell that's the topic, like your current topic, because you even brought your laptop closer and you were more like, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
it's good fun. It's one of those things. Even some of the biggest businesses in the world in the D2C space are still terrible at that because they're used to building retail first brands, or offline
yeah,
retail first brands. So yeah, really enjoying getting into that more and more. I mean, we're seeing that, as I said, in subscription health, in subscription food, in all sorts of stuff. I mean, we're working with gut biome companies. We're playing with all sorts of stuff, and it's really interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, we enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really learned a lot, and that's why I enjoy interviewing people like you with tons of experience. So thank you very much, and I hope we can have you back.
Mate, more than happy to. Thanks for having me, Banjo. Catch up soon.
Awesome. Yeah. See you.
See you, mate.
Well, there you have it. I hope you learned a lot as I did. You can tell that I really enjoyed this one. I already spoke to Sean, and we'll have him back. Check him out. Check Swanky. I told him about his website. I loved it. I think it's one of my favorite websites for agencies. So definitely check him out. And also, remember to go to Convert.com if you want to learn more about conversion rate optimization. We have tons of resources there. We have a blog, we have a lot of articles, we have videos, we have a lot. And also we have customer support. So if you have a specific question about Convert or about conversion rate optimization, you can just drop an email, send us a chat, and we're there for you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.